What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Last week's video we laid down some pretty promising passes. It took a little bit to get there. We had to put a lot of preload in the suspension to get it to go straight, but we got there in the end. We talked a whole lot about stiffening up the chassis and bracing the rear a bit, but the parts didn't come in time. Well, they're here today. We got some threaded rod and I have a whole bunch of aluminum spacers. We're gonna go ahead and build a custom rear chassis brace right quick. We're gonna jump straight into it right here, so let's get started. So the first thing is I need to remove the old stuff. I'm gonna pull out this, I think it's called a waterfall here. I'm gonna remove these two screws right quick. My aluminum standoffs or spacers are actually gonna bolt in position where this used to bolt up. I won't be using any more screws up top here. Next up, we're also going to be removing the screws that bolt this into the rear tower. I'm pretty sure the rear tower on this car would need to be replaced. If I was keeping this car, it would be being replaced. But as I mentioned in the last video with the new DR10M coming out, I got one on pre-order, so this car we're just going to use for testing until that one comes in. I'm going to set this car up as close as possible to what that one will be like. And when that one comes in, it'll hopefully be even better. We'll have a stronger, more consistent car. As I mentioned in the last video, we'll also be putting in the 4-gear transmission into my SC5M, B5M base car here. That way it'll more closely mimic the DR10M. But I don't have the other idler gear yet. It should come in this week, so you should see that in this video. But for now, we're gonna get these chassis braces built. First thing we're gonna do, pretty straightforward, is I'm gonna bolt these standoffs to the chassis. I may not have mentioned it, but I had already taken off the side plates from the chassis and trimmed those. That way there was nothing in the way of these standoffs. So next up, we have to make up some turnbuckles basically. Got some rod ends and some threaded rod. We're gonna figure out how long they need to be from point to point here. Make up some turnbuckles and bolt those in place, and that should strengthen up the rear of the chassis for us. So after a little bit of trial and error on the lengths, we got it done. We got a nice brace here. It's a whole lot stronger than before. We still have a little flex there, but it's a whole lot better than what we had with that waterfall, that plastic. I'm liking this so far. Ready to see what it'll do. Hopefully that idler gear will come in and we can swap around the transmission. All right, now we got some parts in. So now it's time to pull this transmission back apart, swap everything over to the 4-gear transmission, put everything back in the car, and then we can go make some hits. To get started with our recap of my day of testing, I guess I first need to tell you about the other new thing that I tried out in this video, and that is tire prep. I tried out some get stuck tire prep in this video. I ordered a couple bottles to try it out. Like I mentioned before, I wanted to get into trying to prep these tires, get them a little more sticky. And I did a lot of research, and there's not a lot out there on how to necessarily prep them. I did come across a couple videos of cleaning and applying the prep, but I wasn't really sure. Do I prep in between every pass? Do I wipe the prep off after it dries? How does all of that go down? So those first couple passes you saw was just me figuring out the prep. That first pass, I put the prep on. I heated the tires up with a heat gun as I was recommended to do. I did a quick burnout and then tried to launch, and I guess the prep was actually slick on the tire still and it didn't hook. After I figured out a good process to apply the prep to the tires, heat them up and get it to get sticky, and do a nice burnout to clean them up before a pass, I was finally able to start getting some nice launches. The next thing you saw was just a rookie mistake by me, I guess. I didn't reset anything from the last time I was out. And the last time I was out, I didn't have a rear chassis brace. I didn't have a 4-gear transmission. So I still had the suspension pretty bound up. The car was leaving and pulling straight right every pass. So then I started playing around with suspension wise. I started backing off on that left shock that I had a lot of preload in before. Got it all the way back down to neutral, and it was still pulling right a little bit. So we ended up putting a little preload in the right shock, and then we saw some really straight passes. With those tires being prepped and getting a little more bite to them, I was seeing some pretty good launches. Wasn't having any trouble driving the car down track and was laying down consistent passes. So then I just started putting the power to it. I ended up running my best ever ET, which was a 241 at 62 miles an hour on the performance analyzer, which, as we all know, it's about 2/10 slow, so that's a 221 technically. And honestly, I felt like there was a lot more in the car after that pass. I think I got a little too greedy though. I started putting a whole lot of power into the car. Using the tablet back there with the Macklin app for my DRK, I went in and started trying to add in some more power earlier and getting that boost to come in a little earlier. And after that, I just wasn't able to get the car to launch. I'm gonna have to turn it back down, obviously, but I figured after making probably about 20 to 30 hits, that was enough for the day. I'm really interested because I know not many people share that information, but I was getting up there in the degrees of boost that I was adding in. I was almost at about 40 degrees. I didn't see the motor getting hot at all. Granted, I was only making 1, maybe 2 passes max, and then bringing the car back, cleaning off the tires, topping the battery off, and making changes in the ESC, so maybe that gave it some time to cool off. But I was almost at 40 degrees of timing, and I don't know if that's high or low or what. And with the car launching good when it gets down track, I know that's how I'm gonna add in more power down track. Just a little worried, I guess, about maybe adding too much and frying my motor by putting way too much timing in it. But anyway, I feel like this is a really good start to get me in the right direction for when that new DR10M comes in. Like I said, we should have braced the back end up a good bit, and we're running that 4-gear transmission now, so all of my suspension tuning is gonna be in line with the centrifugal forces of that transmission that's in that car. Playing around with a little tire prep, still gonna take me some getting used to. I know I still have some learning to do. As always, I'm interested in what you guys do. Make sure to drop a comment down below. Let me know what tire prep you use, how you apply it, what you do in between passes, all of that good stuff. I'm in the learning game here. We hit a new personal best in this video, and I have already hit my goal of 60 miles an hour, so we're only shooting further now. We're getting to the point where I'm ready to get the car competitive for some races. Found some local guys in the area, so hopefully I can get out and start racing soon. So make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you enjoy following along as I tune this car and learn along with you guys. Like I said, I like to pass along all the knowledge that I learned, everything that I learned while building this car and racing and tuning now. But anyway, as always, thanks again for watching. Peace.